Okay, can everyone see the slides? Fantastic. So first off, let me start by welcoming you all to our first community meet. This is something we want to start doing regularly to share updates from us, give our wonderful community a chance to share what they've been doing with our products, and also for you to engage with us and ask questions. So the running order for today is, I'll be speaking first, giving you an update on Civo, just a quick bit of background for those of you that have joined us recently and may not know how we got to this point in our journey, then on to what we're working on, as well as our goals for this year. Then our developer advocate, Kai, will be speaking about Kubernetes-native development environments using Octeto. Up third, we've got a member of our community, Saiyam, talking about the marketplace apps he's added and using Terraform with Civo. And finally, we have another member of our community, Alistair, talking about how he uses Civo with OpenFaaS. So for those of you that are new to our community, I'll start by giving a really quick bit of background into Civo and how we got to where we are. Our executive team have decades of experience in large domain name and shared hosting systems, as well as co-located hosting in our group's own data centers. In 2016, we launched Civo to try to push our group's technical boundaries further, starting with building out an infrastructure as a service solution based on OpenStack. We were aiming to launch instances faster than our competitors and our own existing group virtualization services, while offering a friendly and technical support service, not just a call center or an email system. We looked for a number of solutions to host our own website and API services at the time. We started off with a traditional multiple virtual servers and deploying our code to them in parallel via Capistrano, the regular approach that a lot of Ruby on Rails shops use. Then we got into using Flynn. This was our first foray into hosting using a PaaS, or a platform as a service, locally, bringing the ease of deployments of Heroku to our own infrastructure. Well, that was great until the day it first broke. Now, Flynn is open source software and we could have just investigated it until we found the problem and fixed it. However, when your production services are down and temperatures are raising, a common step is to reach out to the community and the company that built it. And unfortunately for us, the response times weren't great during UK office hours. And after trying to track down the problem, we ended up just wiping the cluster, reinstalling and redeploying our apps. And that ended up happening a couple of times. Fortunately, our databases were stored outside the cluster. At that time, we were hearing great things about Kubernetes, including a rapidly growing community around it, and gave it a play. From the word go, it was like Nirvana, the hosting solution we always would have wanted to run our services on. Resilient, flexible, powerful, it had everything we wanted. Sure, it was a bit of a pain to install and slow to get up and running, but maybe when we have a bit more experience at running it, we thought this could be a future product for us. In May of 2019, we heard about a fledgling K3S project that had been started on New Year's Day of that year. And that promised a single binary, easy to install Kubernetes distribution that was fully compliant with the Kubernetes standards and was exactly what we needed for our own Kubernetes product. Suddenly we found we could launch clusters in a couple of minutes compared to the 10 minutes plus that our competitors took. So that's everyone up to date. Let's look forward to what we're working on at the moment. The big current focus is our new platform. I think it's no secret we've had some issues with networking in OpenStack. We've apologized for that before and we'll keep doing so, but at the end of the day, apologies are great, but they don't stop the problem from happening. And that's why we're investing a lot in building a brand new platform as we transition to being a Kubernetes-focused company from a traditional IaaS one. Our new platform is actually built on Kubernetes from the ground up. At the moment, we have a certain amount of split brain in our system, with information stored both in OpenStack and in our own database, because storing everything in OpenStack's APIs is not great because they're really slow and often not consistent. So when we move to Kubernetes as our control plane, we're aiming for a single source of truth, as well as the ease of extension for future products that we may launch. We've chosen Storage OS as our storage partner for both disks for instances and nodes, as well as hopefully native volume support. So you'll just be able to create persistent volumes without needing to install Longhorn or use local paths which don't survive node rebuilds. On the hardware front, we're going to be using the Open Compute platform. For those of you unfamiliar with this, it's a set of designs for easily installable and replaceable, energy efficient and highly dense uniform racks of servers. It was launched in 2011 by Facebook, but now has IBM, Google, Microsoft, and lots of others on boards. It's a really cool project, and I'm sure you'll hear us all spouting wonderful things about it, but it's really worth checking out if you haven't read into it yet. So a whole new platform. but hopefully you won't notice that much difference except for a new era of reliability and stability. The things you may notice upcoming this year are, the obvious one is newer versions of K3S. Unfortunately, Rancher changed the way they version number K3S, and this broke our version comparison for seeing if there's a new version available. So this is a relatively simple change, but it just hasn't been the highest of priorities during our COVID lockdown. However, we really want to get this fixed and get up to date on versions. Along with this, we want to add multi-master support. Another relatively easy change, but we just need to find the time to do so. Secondly, we want to get cluster launches to under 30 seconds. The specific time is a personal goal of mine. As a company, our goal is just that we want them to be as fast as possible. And that will involve two things. Optimized and tiny base images built to boot fast, maybe based on Alpine or K3OS if it's ready, and having K3S pre-installed on the images. With our focus on Kubernetes as the underlying architecture, we'll be able to easily add on services such as database as a service and object storage. This means we'll be able to launch all of these services and have great performance between them and our existing K3S product. And finally, our most frequently asked question, a second region is coming. We're aiming to launch our East Coast USA region this year. And in fact, we've already placed the hardware order for it, with plans for more regions on the way next year. So we need you, our enthusiastic community. I can't even begin to express how much we appreciate your support, whether it's raising issues and feature suggestions on our Cube 100 issue tracker, submitting applications to our marketplace, as many of you have now done, writing blog posts, creating videos or live streaming you working on Civo, tweeting about us, or even just hanging out in the community Slack, asking questions and helping other people. Anything you do is all helpful, so thank you very much to everyone that's done it so far, and thanks in advance to any of you that do so in the future. That's the end of my presentation. So now I shall hand over to Kai to give his talk on developer Kubernetes. If I can figure out how to stop sharing my screen.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to start sharing my screen now and hopefully get the correct desktop up. That should hopefully be showing my terminal and things. And can you, nope, you probably can't see that actually. Can you see my keynote at the moment?
No.
Oh,
not yet,
okay.
Kai.
Okay, bear with me 1 second. It's where we practice this.
We'll edit this bit out on the recording.
Yeah. So, share screen. Here we go. Hopefully you can see my, yep, cool. So I'm going to be doing a very quick run through of setting up a Kubernetes-native development environment in the cloud using our K3S and Octeto. And this talk exists purely thanks to Milind from the Civo community, who wrote a guide to using Octeto. And he did it with Java. And I thought it was so neat that you could develop like straight in your containers. That I wanted to have a play around it with myself. So here we are. And just, you know, in case you are looking to do something new and sort of want to share it, there's an option to contribute a Learn guide on your Civo UI on the left-hand side under Learn, and it's just a markdown document, and you can, just type in stuff. It'll probably come to me. I'm more than happy to edit and suggest comments and things like that. So today's structure is like a quick run through of why do this, and then talk briefly about Octeto, and then running through the requirements of what you're going to need, and then fingers crossed live demo. So why do you need to do this? So sometimes basically you just, you know, I wanted to have the Top Gun GIF of them high-fiving going. Sometimes you just feel the need for speed. But basically, Kubernetes is a container orchestration system, right? So you deploy containers that have components for your app and then run them in a cluster so that they can all talk to each other. But making changes with those components involves steps that mean rebuilding and redeploying your containers and pushing them to a repository and so on. So the typical flow for microservice development can be pretty slow. So you write some code, you build the image, you push the image to the registry, and then deploy your cluster, and then, you know. But what if you didn't constantly have to rebuild your Docker images and then redeploy? Now, like, obviously, don't get me wrong, CI/CD is super important, and you do want to go through all your commit stuff and, you know, be able to make sure that your software runs exactly how you want it to. So this isn't intending to replace any of your really good best practice CI/CD things, but you don't need to necessarily run those with every time you save and want to see your results. You could obviously develop on your local machine, running your containers in Minikube or something. You could, but if you're anything like me, you want your local machine to be slick and responsive, and not just because I'm running a 2016 Mac. But so, you know, why not offload all of that to the cloud? So there's your reasoning for why to do this. So Octeto, it's a pretty cool tool. So it allows you to develop your apps in a Kubernetes-native way without having to redeploy every single time you make some changes to see how your components would work together. So second thanks after Miland goes to Ramiro and his team at Octeto, who actually make it. And I think Ramiro is on this call. I think I saw him on the participant list. Hopefully he, you know, I won't say anything too crazy here, but he's also active on our community Slack, so you can reach him there. And he's been super helpful to me whenever I've had questions, so I'm sure he wouldn't mind answering any for you. So basically, Octeto allows you to bridge your local machine with your development cluster. So you can use your favorite IDE, your favorite plugins, your favorite themes, you know, whatever, exactly how you like them, and then have the code on the cluster instantly reflect changes you've made. Obviously, if you're using the compiled language, then you will have to wait for the compilation, but, you know, that basically, it does that every time you save. And since you're developing your app directly in the cloud, there's no practical difference between your dev environment and your production environment. So you can have both configured exactly the same, running the same external, you know, components, which means that works on my machine just, you know, now becomes just works. So that's a bonus. Right, I'll run through quickly what you're going to need. So I've got a pre-deployed cluster that I've created in advance earlier today, and I made it using the Civo UI. You can see a screenshot of that on the slide there. Medium 3-node cluster. There's nothing particular about it. Then we're going to need the kubeconfig file for that cluster, which we're going to use the Civo CLI for. And then we just make sure that the slides, the nodes are ready, and then install Octeto. I've already got that installed, and then we're going to make some changes to the code. I'm using VS Code just because I like it, but it's overkill for this simple example, but just go with it. There's also an Octeto plugin extension if you need one. So, demo. I'm going to do a very simple Hello World app that demonstrates it being live on the cluster and being able to change code on the fly. And in a real world example, you would obviously have multiple microservice, you know, chained together. You might be running Redis or some sort of API or whatever, but this is just to show the one thing at a time. So, without further ado, hopefully you can see the terminal screen and it's not too small here. So what we're going to do is get our little project, which is actually from Octeto. And we're going to go into the thing, and then you'll see that there's a K8 YAML, which is our actual service definition, and we're going to deploy that onto the cluster. So what that, oh, that's not meant to happen. Sorry about that.
Kube config.
Yeah.
Config. Yes, thank you. I knew I was going to demonstrate that. Right, okay, now we've got a demo. So we can go and apply. So we can see that we've got a deployment and a service called Hello World. So we can see it's running, rock and roll. So we can then open up our IDE. And so what you'll see here is that it's a very simple Ruby app. Basically, I didn't want to go anything too complicated here or anything compiled because I've only got a couple of minutes left. So you can see that basically it's a web service that returns hello world when it's run. So we're going to activate our development container in Octeto, which connects the service deployed onto the cluster with our local machine. And you can see it going through its steps, and then welcome to your development environment, happy coding. Great, okay, so now we can start our app. And what we're going to do is go to 8080. Yeah. We can see, hopefully you can see that it's actually returned us hello world. So let's change that to hello wonderful Civo community, and just save that file, refresh that, and it's instantly updated on the cluster. And I know it says localhost on here, but that's because it's tunneling through and allowing us to use port forwarding. But if I were to exit out of this, and I'm now in the container, as you can see, it's the Hello World app folder. If I cat the app.rb file, you can see that it's already updated the Hello Wonderful Civo Community file on there. So you know that that file was being returned, or the HTTP response was being returned by your cluster. So it's super simple, and like it's one of those things where you go like, oh, I didn't know that could be done. But I immediately, when I saw that, I just went like, that's genius, because it allows you to sort of externalize all of that heavy lifting to your cluster and just update the bits that you need. So just to conclude really quickly, definitely read Millen's guide to using Java to see how this works with a compiled language. And then once you're happy with your changes, you would obviously push to production by building the container from this. So this isn't designed to build on the fly. This is very much designed to be used as a test environment. So you would go and push to your registry and then rolling deploy that to your cluster once you're happy with your changes. That was literally a whistle-stop tour of Octeto. So what I'm going to do now is stop sharing and let Saiyam get on with his talk. Thanks.
Thanks, Saiyam. You should be able to share your screen.
Yeah, so am I audible? Yeah, that's the most, the first thing that we usually say these days. Let me share. Okay. So you should be able to see the screen now. So yes, I have been working with all of the folks from the Civo from a lot of time now. So it's a great product, the first ever K3S managed service that they have built. I was the first one of the first early adopters of that, and today I'll be talking about some of the things that comes pre-built with Civo and how as a community you can contribute and make this product even more usable for yourself and even for the others who are there in the community. So this is a bit about myself. You can read through it. I also run a YouTube channel where I come live every Sunday with other community leaders and talk on different cloud native stuff. And even Ramiro was there with us in one. So first and the foremost thing is marketplace. So whenever you launch a K3s cluster from Civo Cloud, so what you see is you get a marketplace option from which you can choose various apps. So right now you can see I'm showing the management tab over here, but there are other tabs like feature, database, storage, monitoring, CI/CD. So most of them are actually the community contributed, and the people who felt like, okay, this is what I need when I run the cluster. So this might be some this might be the app that someone else might also need. So what Civo does is they have made a really sorry, they have made a really simple process for contributing an app. On the right hand side you can see 4 files. These are just the 4 files that you need in order to deploy the application. I mean, in order to contribute towards Civo. So I'll show one of the apps when just after the presentation. So you also have another thing which is called Terraform provider. So it's a custom Terraform provider, and you have 0.97 some version is there as of now, and you can provision the cluster, you can provision your instances, networks, all that stuff using Terraform. So most of the people in the community, even me, so what I prefer is while spinning up the infrastructure, I do not want to go to Civo Cloud or Google Cloud or any cloud do it. So I prefer the Terraform scripts over that. So you can see, I'll quickly show you the demo because I have a lot of things to cover over there. I just made the slides just to make things okay. I have done something, but most of the things is the demo part. So first we went through marketplace. So this is the repository, Civo Communities Marketplace. So this is one of the marketplace app that I contributed. You don't have to do much of the stuff, to be very honest. It's very simple. So apps
Sorry,
are
we
already
can only
out
see
there.
your PowerPoint.
Okay. Yeah, got it. Let me share the other one. Yeah,
That's
you
it.
should be able to see now. Yeah, so as I was saying that you don't have to do much. So it's just the Kubernetes Marketplace app. You fork the repository. You create your own application. The first you give the application name, then you create your YAML files. First is the app.yaml. Logo is simple logo of the application that you are trying to put inside the marketplace. Manifest is something that is mandatory, which defines how manifest is something that connects internally with Civo, and it displays on the tile that I was showing. That is, if we go here, and yeah, so this is what the tiles look like. And this is very simple. You give a name, version, the maintainer, description, the URL of their and the category. So that it automatically places in the defined categories. So we have management, so it automatically places in the management category. So basically you don't have to do anything over there. And then this is just a simple YAML file. Sorry, this one, I think. Yeah, this is a YAML. This will be the actual application that you want to deploy. The application namespace, what all the role bindings, the roles, the secrets that you want to apply, and the deployment of the daemon set that has to be deployed across the cluster. After this, then if there are any post steps, like if you want to create, if there is an ingress that has to be created, or if you have to create any node port service of the cluster IP, so all those things that you can do. So you can post that in the post install YAML. So that's how simple it is. So I feel like if you are using some application which is not there right now on Civo, you can immediately go ahead and contribute it and make your name in the contribution list. As simple as that. So another part is, this is a Terraform provider, very simple to use. So what Terraform does is, Terraform is an infrastructure provisioning tool. It helps you provision the cluster. I will share the demo part of that. So I have already Terraform downloaded. You can download Terraform from the HashiCorp website itself, the Terraform website itself. So what you have is you just have to have a directory. You have to create a terraform.d file, and inside terraform.d, sorry, what you have to do is you have to have the plugins folder, and inside the plugins folder, you have to have like I'm on Mac, so I have created this. And inside that, you have to download the custom Civo providers, because that's how Terraform works with the custom providers as of now. And then it's nothing, you just do a Terraform init, and it will be installing the plugin. And I mean, it will be, it reads the plugin that it's already there. And after that, Terraform already has this particular. Okay, first let us finish this, then I'll show you where all you can find the docs of other stuffs that you can do. So for example, I have test.tf over there, which I have created. So if I cat that, or maybe we can BI as well. So this is something, a resource. So I want to create a Civo Kubernetes cluster, and I want to name it as Civo demo. And these are the applications that I want to be pre-installed when the cluster is created. And this is something, these two are something that comes from the data source file. So what should be the target node side, and what should be the Kubernetes version. And I can show you the target source file as well. So the data source is this. In the data source, you specify, okay, this is medium, and you give the name and the value. And again, in the data source for the Kubernetes version, you define the label and 1.17. All the documentation of the data sources as well is available on the repository. So you can see like what all things you should specify. It's not like I have made something on my own. So it's already there, what I have used. And for if you want to create any resource from Terraform, you just do Terraform plan. So it will say, first it will check the state, like if there is any instance that is already created with this particular name. So it will check, hit the API and get the result. And it says it has one to add with the name, the number of nodes, the size of the nodes, and the Kubernetes version. So you can do that. Then simple Terraform apply. It'll ask whether you want to do or not. So we'll give it a yes. And it starts creating the cluster. So meanwhile, let's go back to Chrome and see what is happening over there. Yes. So this is the Terraform Civo provider repository, and you have the docs over there. So these D is for the data sources that are there that I just showed you. So you can see from the Kubernetes what all data sources are there, how you define them. So like the version and additional reference, what all things are there, all the filters, they're already there. And same is for the R. R means like what is the actual implementation, how you define the resource, what are all the resources that you can create via Civo Terraform provider. So all these are the resources that you can create using Terraform itself, and you can do all the stuff. If I go to Civo website and I just do a refresh, I'll see that it's already creating a cluster and it's loading. Yeah, so it's already creating the cluster with Kubernetes K3SV17. So once it is done, it will give you the output that the cluster has been created. It will also give you the kubeconfig file, but that kubeconfig file is not, I mean, you cannot use as it is. So what you'll have to do is you will have to remove the /n's from that. I'll show you once it's created. So you have to remove the /n's from that. There's another thing that I would like to tell you. If you want to upgrade K3S, Civo K3S as of now, what you can do is, you can do that. I would not say you can't do it. So you can upgrade K3S to the latest version, which is supported by the Rancher UI itself. So Rancher 2.4, if you are importing the cluster, so it natively supports K3S upgrades. So it will automatically detect the upgrade. So yes, on the UI, it will still show this, but on the backend, it does upgrade. So I can show you that as well, or maybe we can do that later as well. So if you see, it has created all the files. So what was the output? I should have created one output also, right?
I think your screen is still showing just the browser.
Oh, yeah, that's because I have so many stuff open. So
It's so relatable. So many windows.
so yeah, I don't want to show my hundreds of tabs that are open. So so this is the state file which is there, and you can see you have the kube config directly generated. So either you can use from here, you have to do a bit of editing, you have to remove all the slashes, or the best part would be just go back to I will switch the screen first. So just go back to your Civo cloud, and from there, when you go inside the cluster, you can directly download the kube config file. It is as simple as that. You click the download. You can use kubectl --- kube config, or you can put it in your home directory and add it. So that's how simple it is. And you can see the installed applications are already there. So you have Rancher. In order to access, you have to apply this particular ingress, and from there you can do whatever you want. And if you want to additionally install app, you can still install the applications by clicking over there. So what I would say is pretty much handy. So you have all your apps, what you want, and you want others to use as well. Just raise a PR on Marketplace app, and the community, I mean, the folks from Civo are pretty active, and they'll be happy to answer your questions. And same goes for Terraform. That's it that I have for today. So I'll share the screen.
Fantastic. Thank you, Saiyam. Over to Alistair next.
Over to me, yeah. I'm going to do a slight, thanks very much for everything you showed so far. I'm going to do a slight change of tack and show you what I've been using Civo and K3S for, rather than showing you some of the platformy bits that the other guys have been through. So how do I make this go into, I'll just do it like this. So I'm going to talk about application development with Civo and K3S. But by application development, I kind of mean platform applications. So the kind of applications that the marketplace allows you to install, and things to install with Helm, and sort of third-party things you might need, like Cert Manager or Rancher and the UI and all those bits and pieces. So I spend most of my spare time contributing to OpenFaaS, so OpenFaaS and Arcade and bits and pieces. So it's more from like a framework, platform, and like tools and process perspective that I talk about applications that I develop. So the problem I have is that I'm testing the installation of my application into a brand new cluster, rather than like upgrading my application version within the cluster. So I'm testing a lot of Helm installs, a lot of automation and tooling, so that the people who want to use the applications that we develop can easily install those on their own clusters. So it's a little bit like testing the marketplace applications kind of thing. I have to test multiple versions of Kubernetes because there are loads. And also a lot of the stuff that the OpenFaaS team look after is multi-CPU architecture. So as well as your traditional AMD64, we also target ARM. And K3S is great for this because it's got really small memory overhead compared with a traditional Kubernetes master node. So you get a lot more like spare resources, especially if you're deploying onto like Raspberry Pis and things. So it's great for that. And I use a lot of clusters. I destroy a lot of clusters. I might go through like 15 clusters while setting up some new installation types. So things that are free are always great for me with your beta credit. So thanks, guys. So yeah, I think I've gone through most of these, but one of the main ones in there is fast to start. So if the Civo team do get down to their 30 seconds, I will buy you a whole case of beer. So challenge out there, it's on video, so good luck. That would be amazing. There would basically be no need for me to run K3S locally or anything, so that would be amazing. Yeah, so as we've gone through, faster start, hopefully getting faster for Civos. K3s. It's quite easy to use compared with the whole setup of Kubernetes on another platform. So I don't know how many people here have deployed to EKS or GKE. There's a lot more stuff you have to set up, a lot more things you have to pay for before you actually get to installing your application. And as I've mentioned, I do all this for free. So things that are cheaper are better for me, yes. Yeah, and the team at Civo and all the guys and the community, I found them really sort of welcoming and supporting. So thanks to everyone that's present. That's really great. I said it's fast to start, but how fast? This is a tweet from November last year while Andy was at KubeCon. He managed to track down an issue in the platform, fix it, test it, deploy it to their production cluster, and I created a new cluster before one of their competitors' Kubernetes clusters had even started. So I was already well on my way, having gone through all of that before one of the other providers' Kubernetes clusters had even started. So if you can get to 30 seconds, that would just be amazing.
That's my favorite tweet of all time.
Yeah, I love it too. It was amazing. So yeah, you were just there. I imagine in the KubeCon, just like on your knee with your laptop, tether to your phone or something. It was great. So
exactly that.
I'm just gonna do a quick demo again. Live demos, we love them. I'm going to show you Arcade, which is like a Kubernetes app installer. You can think about it a bit like the Civo Marketplace, but instead of being only able to install stuff on the Civo K3s, you can install this onto any Kubernetes cluster with a single binary. And this is the kind of thing that whilst I'm testing and developing the app, I'll be using Civo and K3s to help that churn of having to use a lot of new clusters to deploy stuff onto. So demo time, it's relatively short, you'd be glad to know. So Civo Arcade. So I'm going to install a few like platform applications, as I've called them. So first off, we'll just show you what Arcade install. So Arcade, we've got support for all these lovely apps. So OpenFaaS, all sorts of lovely bits and pieces in there that you might need and might want, in KDE, bits and pieces. Yes, so I'm going to install Nginx Ingress so I've disabled the default traffic from this cluster when I installed it. We're going to install Nginx Ingress, OpenFaaS, Cert Manager, and then hopefully get a TLS certificate for our OpenFaaS installation in 1, 2, 3, 4 commands, fingers crossed. So that will go off, and basically Arcade wraps Helm charts and creates like a, oh, that broke. Oh, it's because I've got it already installed. Nothing to see. We can see it wraps the Helm charts and provides sort of typed flags. So in Helm, you pass in like you set parameters, but you could spell those wrong, or you could pass in like the wrong value for true or false and spell it wrong, and then it would all install correctly, but your configuration wouldn't be put through. So you'd end up potentially with a hard problem to debug. Something running in your cluster which you thought was working. So Cert Manager. So Cert Manager should allow us to get a TLS certificate for OpenFaaS, which is already deployed now. And when that's gone in, and that was really quick. I should be able to get the password for my OpenFaaS installation. You can log in if you wish. So OpenFaaS, Civo. Oh, looks like I've already logged in, but we've now installed on that cluster OpenFaaS with a TLS certificate from Let's Encrypt. It was that easy and that quick, and even I managed to get it right. And just have a look what's running. We've got some bits and pieces in there. I actually just installed all this earlier, so I did a cheat on the demo. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show you, and that's me. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Alistair and Saiyam and Kai, for your talks. All very interesting stuff. Let Ricky come on board as a moderator, although we've only got one question outstanding. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to post them and we'll answer them before we end. But
yeah, I think between yourself and Kai, you've answered a few on the fly there, but I'll let you field this one, Andy. What does Q100 stand for? The 100% uptime or 100 beta testers? And that's from Luke Short.
Now, as Ricky is actually in the marketing department, it probably makes more sense for him to answer this, but I'll go for it anyway. So really, it's just kind of a continuation of our previous beta program. So when we launched Civo, we did something called Club 100, which was the first 100 users onto our platform. And when we decided to switch over to Kubernetes, we thought, let's keep the 100 branding for our beta program. So that's why it's Cube 100. It's not necessarily aiming for 100% uptime. I think initially we had some notions of 100 beta testers, but we've surpassed that number now. But it was just to kind of keep the branding with the Club 100 program that we had previously running.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a continuity thing as well, but we quickly realized that Cube 100 was going to exceed 100 users fairly fast, and it has done. So thanks for everybody for that. If there's any other questions, we'd love to see them before
there's questions going in the chat.
Okay, let's have a look.
Yeah, so there's one from Martin going, are you guys still keeping the OpenStack platform as I still use it and love it? And I'm assuming that means more the IaaS side of things, of like launching instances over clusters.
Okay, so to answer it exactly as you worded it, the plan is that we're going to deprecate the OpenStack side. So new instances will be launched on the new Kubernetes platform, Cube 100 platform. And eventually when the OpenStack side is clear, then we will shut it down. The reasons for that is that it feels like to manage an OpenStack cluster properly, you need to have a large team and huge budgets for hardware. So you reach a point when you're doing upgrades and you get limited on the version you're on. And at that point, the community advice is replicate your entire infrastructure with the new version on it and migrate everything across. Now, as a small provider, that's just not realistic for us. And I'd imagine for most companies outside of the likes of Google, Facebook, etc. So that said, we are still planning on allowing to launch plain instances. If you wish to launch instances and run databases or something outside of Kubernetes, that's going to be exactly the same. You won't notice any difference from a web UI or from the CLI point of view. It just so happens it's going to launch it as a virtual instance on Kubernetes. So there will still be IaaS products. They're just going to be managed through Kubernetes rather than managed through Kubernetes rather than OpenStack. Next question.
Another question from Martin. What kind of market are you looking to penetrate and how can the community drive it? I think the community is doing a great job of doing that already, but as we were early adopters of K3S, we were really looking to see what the community was telling us, what the wider Kubernetes community is telling us around the use cases for this. So I think Andy can probably drill down a little bit more of the use cases we've identified so far.
Yeah, so we're not trying to target, your Amazon Kubernetes service or your Google Kubernetes service in offering massive production infrastructures. So we're trying to offer the services for people that are either running a small cluster for, a handful of clients or development, testing, and learning environments. So you can quickly launch an infrastructure, play with something in your lunch hour and shut it down rather than waiting, for 1/3 of your lunchtime for the cluster to launch up. Also for CI/CD pipelines, there's a lot of interest in people who want to be able to launch a cluster during a CI run to make sure everything deploys to a cluster and it's okay, and then tear it back down again. So again, that doesn't really become feasible when it takes 20 to 30 minutes to launch a full major cluster. So those are sort of, not necessarily the markets, but sort of where we're aiming to to target slightly differently from a lot of the big players already in the space.
And I think definitely in terms of how the community can help drive that and how it can help us is exactly like what we're seeing here. This is our first webinar. We've never done one like this before. It's been a fantastic turnout, and we're really grateful to Alistair and Siam for these talks. So we're going to make this a regular thing. So we'd like to see more, possibly make it a monthly thing. We haven't quite decided because we weren't too sure. There was some apprehension about how this might go in the turnout, but we'd be definitely looking to get some more speakers. So I'll be pitching for ideas in the Slack community channel, and content wherever you can, off and on site, is a massive help because yeah, we're a small team and obviously we don't quite have the reach of some of the larger providers. So the word of mouth marketing is going to be a huge one for us. So that's definitely where, from a marketing perspective, our focus is on you guys and how we can collaborate.
Matt Lehman's next.
Yeah. Do you want to take that, Andy?
Yeah, sure. So Matt's asked, are you planning to stick with Ubuntu 16.04 as the base OS for the nodes? The short answer is no. We went with Ubuntu 16.04 probably because it was the particular version and distribution that we're most familiar with. But as we move to the Cube 100 platform that we're building, we definitely want a small, ultra-light, quick-to-launch system in order to hit our desired performance goals. So I think going forward, we definitely wouldn't be sticking to Ubuntu 16.04, probably because it's end of life next year, I think. I'd imagine it's 5 years, I think, for the LTS versions. Whether we would stick with Ubuntu 20.04, doubtful. I would imagine we're going to go with something much smaller, much more lightweight, something like Alpine, or K3OS is a very bare bones Linux installation that has K3S built in. Now, the last time I spoke to Rancher, they said it's not ready yet. Please don't use it. Obviously, over time that should change. So the answer is we definitely won't be sticking with Ubuntu 16.04 long term as the base OS for the nodes. What we will be switching to will depend on our testing for Cube 100 platform.
There's a couple more Q&As. There's from Giovanni. Any plan to adopt Traffic 2.x? As somebody who doesn't know much about ingress controllers, I'll pass that one to Andy. Yeah, sure. So what we try to do with K3S is a very opinionated distribution, and Darren Shepherd at Rancher makes no bones about it. This isn't here's a bunch of options, you decide how you want your K3S. It's we're going to build K3S and we're going to give you sensible defaults that everyone can just use out of the box. So when K3S updates to Traffic 2.0 or 2.x as default, we will. We may well, if anyone wants to do it, feel free. We may well have a marketplace app for Traffic 2.x. The way the marketplace apps work, Siam showed earlier how you can use an app.yaml to describe the Kubernetes resource you want to apply. You can also include an install.sh, which maybe removes the default traffic, or maybe we'll make it so that it's a conflict. You can either have the default traffic or a Traffic 2.x. But no plans for us necessarily to upgrade to it until upstream K3S does. But if anyone wants to do a traffic upgrade application in the marketplace, we'd definitely be interested and happy to help with supporting that.
Okay, next question from Eric Zelenka. Any plans for some variant of the Vault service?
Vault is the secrets management thing. Am I correct looking to the others? We're not planning on offering it outside of K3S. I don't know if that's even an option. But again, if it's a marketplace app, then that's certainly something we would accept if people wanted to. We did have a PR I received for sealed secrets earlier. So again, this certainly feels like the sort of thing that marketplace apps could be written to do. And again, if anyone wants to add them, there's very few marketplace apps we would turn down. So, you know, if it's something that may be useful to your community, we're more likely to accept it than reject it. So feel free to add it.
Okay, next question from Zolt Homodori. are you planning to support Pulumi besides Terraform? As far as I know, it is possible to generate most of it based on Terraform provided code.
Honest answer, I've never heard of Pulumi before this second. Alejandro JNM in our chat is working very closely with us. He's, I don't know his official status, but basically he's kind of working for Civo. He wrote most of the Terraform provider code, if not all of it. So that may be something that we can pick up with him in the community Slack. You know, if it's something that the community is using and it's simple enough to go from Terraform module to a Pulumi module, then that's something we could consider if it's useful.
Just looking for any remaining questions in the chat. One from another question from Matt. So what's the anticipated time frame for the US East region at the moment?
All we have as an anticipated time frame at the moment is this year. So the hardware has a lead time of, I believe, a few months. So that would be sort of the earliest we would be looking at getting it shipped out there and installed. But it purely depends as well on how quickly we get the Cube 100 software, the Cube 100 platform software side done as well. But kind of the target is by the end of the year. Hopefully it will be early Q4, but this year is the official answer on that.
I think we've caught every question. If we've missed one, please drop it into the chat.
Or if you come up with a question afterwards, see us in the community Slack. We're there. We're happy. I know Saiyam and Alistair are there all the time as well. So, you know, anything that might pop into your head as a result of this, you know, we're just happy to see the community chat. So, you know.
Also, can we please reach out to people to give the CLI a test? There's been a lot of effort recently on rebuilding the command line interface into Go, so it's easier to install. It's in Homebrew as a tap and binaries for other OSs. We'd appreciate some eyes testing the new CLI.
From my perspective, got a couple of things on the go. A few of our testers have been trying out a beta of a new refer a friend system where we're going to reward with actual cash via PayPal. Very early days on that. It's all ready to go. Just looking to get some more feedback of some of our testers on that, and hopefully we can launch that in the next couple of weeks to help grow us further. So look out for that. And after that, we're looking to introduce an ambassadors program as well, so we can further reward all of our contributors. So we'll have more info on that soon, but if you like the sound of the ambassadors program, please hit me up. I can give you some more info. If you want to be a part of the first round of ambassadors especially, that'd be great to get some of you guys on board. But was there anything else at all, questions at all?
Lee Sylvester has previously written a couple of libraries for using the Civo API. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lee, but I believe there was a PHP one, but he also wrote a version in a language called HAXE, H-A-X-E, which allows you to translate into multiple different languages. So, and he's asked, do I need to update the SDKs? At the moment, the SDKs are, sorry, the API is the same. We haven't made any changes to the API. We're not planning on making any changes either at the moment. So the new Cube 100 platform will be a behind the scenes change. So it won't change our public APIs that we publish. And they already support region specification as much as we currently only have one region. So again, the API should already be the same for when we launch our second region. Okay. I think we've run out of questions.
I think so. At the end of this, you should all receive a link just to fill in a really short survey. Just 3 questions just to see what you thought of this and how we can improve it next time. I'm really keen to hear what you think of that. I'll just pop it into the chat as well, just in case Zoom doesn't want to push that out to you. That's out there now. So yeah, any comments at all, how we can improve further, that'd be great. But thank you for everybody for attending, and big thanks especially to Alistair and Saiyam for joining us on this. This has been great to take all your contributions so far.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
Take care, everyone.
everybody.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.